I think it's going to be that continuing that, solving for the challenge of understanding where do we find our customers? Where do we find them so that we can really help them to solve their problems? So it's going to be a lot of that tracking, what is it that works? What is it that people want to talk about? What is it that they're talking about? I am born in Mexico, then I moved to Japan, then I moved to the US. I actually started as an economist, investment banking, completely different. Then I was in Japan, so I went to run, a couple of companies. I moved into technology, business development, it became marketing. So it's been a little bit of everything. As I always tell people, it's never been like a linear thing. So I really started my career with regards to communications when I was in Japan. I was running a company called Third Corp. People didn't know, the Japanese didn't know the concept, what is it that it was. So I actually took to, even though we had a PR agency, but it's a little bit like an old school. They were just placing advertisements, a little bit more like an advertisement agency rather than a PR one. So I took on calling all the different magazines because it was really geared towards entrepreneurs. So I went to find these 5 magazines for entrepreneurs, and I pitched them that this was incredible. It was a new concept, and they were very open to the idea. So we got to be in a lot of these expensive magazines. So that's kind of how a lot of these marketing conversations started. And then I moved into technology and started to do like the full spectrum of things. I think I can talk about 2 things. The first one was when I went to work for American Financial Systems. Life insurance, so there was a lot of data to do underwriting and so on. But then after that, when I joined PTC, which is my previous job, marketing was still talking a little bit about, hey, we did this activity and we had this webinar or we had this event, and yes, people came to the webinar. Okay, and then what happened next? So that's where, working for a very, very intelligent person, Charlie Ungashik, we went to build this closed loop marketing concept. So for the first time, we were able to really tie all the journey and being able to say, hey, this person who came to this event, then this is what happened, this is what happened. So that having a closed loop data was kind of the beginning of me running a much more data-driven marketing organization. Everything got connected so well that at some point I used to run, I still remember those times, I used to run the full marketing review out of Salesforce.com dashboards because everything was connected. So you could really say from this activity, this is exactly how the data happened, and it translated into revenue. So that was kind of, it was primarily a PTC that by developing this closed loop marketing concept, that I started working very closely with data-driven marketing department. Sometimes it's not an easy one, I have to admit it, because when you're talking about stories, you're talking, from a digital perspective, you got to talk about your keywords. What are people talking about? You got to make sure that your messaging includes the keywords, but also that tonality that humanizes a brand. So it's really starting to put all these things together. I don't think that we are at a perfect place just yet, but starting to develop your messaging based on, what is it that people want to talk about? What is it that people need to talk about? And the way that you transition from what they want to talk to what you know that they need to talk about, it is through data. You start seeing what is it that they react better to? You start to doing your A/B testing so that you get into these campaigns that are extremely successful. I really like starting all the way from the top of the funnel. You really need to get into your share of voice. You really need to get into your keywords. You really need to get into your rankings. You really need to get into everything that starts telling that story, that corporate story, that awareness component. From there, you really start moving into how many people attended your event. Then you start moving into your buying group. Are you really engaging? And from engagement, I always talk about the two sides of the conversation is marketing, engaging, all the different personas that we need to be engaging, because as you know, in the B2B space, most probably I need to be engaging, I don't know, 10, 15. I believe that the average is 10 different personas in order to close a deal. So you start getting into, is marketing engaging all of them? So there is the awareness. And keeping in mind that all these people like talking about different things in a different way. So it's really measuring that engagement. And then you're talking about the sales engagement. Is sales now engaging with what marketing produce so that you can really maximize your investments? We work very closely, of course, with Google Analytics that produces a lot of our top of the funnel. We got data from different points, primarily trying to put everything through our CRM system so that we can get a full view. Then share voice components. SEMrush provides me data for my keywords, my ranking. We work with companies that provide us intent data. So there's a variety of tools that we currently utilize. You're doing a lot of work in, let's say, social media. And yes, it will be ideal that when you put a post, people very nicely, they click, they fill in the things, it goes into your CRM. That will be like a dream for everybody. But what happens when they just look at it and they're like, this is interesting. Now I'm gonna key something different. That tracking, it's complex. And that is where I believe that a lot of the development in this space is going to happen so that we can really become customer-centric and we don't make wrong decisions as to say, well, social media didn't work because people didn't fill in the form. Well, the reality is that a lot of people saw it, they thought about it, and then when you have a second touch from a marketing perspective, it was in their heads, but it doesn't really mean that we were really able to track it. So I think it's going to be a lot of development on really getting the data that allows to choose, what are those media outlets that we really need to be using? What is a real messaging? Because if you think about it, technology companies, we sometimes tend to be a little bit too product centric. There's always a tendency, we like us, product screenshots. And it's not about that. It's really about being value driven. What is it that we're solving for by leveraging technology, but what is that business problem that we're solving? So the more that we can find ways to be very data driven on how we make decisions on media outlets, how we make decisions on positioning, messaging, that's where we're going to be seeing much more of the development going forward. I actually did a presentation yesterday for some youngsters at college, studying marketing. I will say, first of all, follow your passion. You have to have a passion for the industry. That will say number one. Secondly, be customer centric. It's not about you, it's not about the company. It's about really helping customers. It's about personalization. It's about really being human. So that's what I tend to talk a lot about, that humanization of the brand. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people. So be very authentic, have passion, and work hard. That, I believe, is the formula.